Percy Fawcett, The Lost City of Z. In 1925, British explorer Lieutenant Colonel Percy Harrison Fawcett, accompanied by his son Jack and Raleigh Rymel, vanished without trace in the Mato Grosso region of Brazil while searching for an ancient advanced civilization he codenamed Zed. Fawcett, a seasoned surveyor who mapped uncharted Amazon territories for the Royal Geographical Society, became convinced of Z's existence through indigenous accounts, Portuguese bandeirante records of ruined stone cities, and Manuscript 512, an 18th-century document in Rio de Janeiro, archives describing a 1753 expedition discovering cyclopean walls, arches, and statues in the interior jungle. Fawcett's letters detailed dead cities with hieroglyphs, underground passages, and evidence of a sophisticated culture predating known American civilizations, possibly linked to Atlantis survivors, or a pre-Inca empire with metallurgy and astronomy far beyond accepted timelines. Fawcett rejected rescue parties, believing Z's guardians or environmental dangers would claim outsiders, yet over 100 subsequent expeditions perished seeking him, bones and artifacts surfacing decades later suggesting violent ends. Kalapalo tribe oral histories, recorded in the 1950s, describe hosting 3 white men matching Fawcett's party before directing them eastward, later finding them killed, possibly by hostile kaipo or ritual sacrifice. Yet conflicting accounts claim Fawcett lived among natives, becoming a chief, or entered hidden tunnels to Z, emerging in another dimension or underground realm. The implications are staggering. If Fawcett located Z, an El Dorado of knowledge with crystal technology or antediluvian records, it threatens Amazonian archaeology's short chronology, crediting civilization to post-1000 CE cultures. Brazilian authorities restricted Mato Grosso access post-vanishment, citing indigenous protection, while declassified British Foreign Office files expressed concern over Fawcett's manuscripts revealing dangerous discoveries. Orbital imagery reveals anomalous geometric features in the Xingu region, cleared avenues and moats predating satellite detection, consistent with large pre-Columbian urban centers suppressed to avoid land rights conflicts. Fawcett's final dispatch spoke of reaching the gate, implying breakthrough to forbidden knowledge guardians protect. Independent researchers report electromagnetic anomalies and restricted zones in the area, with expedition permits denied citing environmental concerns. Had Fawcett returned with proof, maps, artifacts, or photographs, Amazonian history might credit a lost high civilization influencing Inca and Maya, decentralizing origins from Mesoamerica. Instead, his compass surfaced in 1979, with natives claiming inheritance from the Old White Chief, while bones tested in the 1990s yielded inconclusive DNA. The establishment dismisses Z as delusion, yet Göbekli Tepe-style discoveries push complex society earlier, aligning with Fawcett's timeline. His vanishing ensured silence, a forbidden explorer discovering impossible truths, advanced jungle metropolis, perhaps psychic or energetic sciences, erased not by cannibals, but by forces preserving the narrative of primitive Amazonia. Fawcett warned, civilization ignores ancient warnings at peril, his fate a cautionary disappearance ensuring Z remains hidden, its truths too disruptive for a world built on gradualist prehistory. As deforestation reveals geoglyphs and earthworks, echoes of his lost city surface, yet institutional resistance buries them once more, keeping the gate closed. Amelia Earhart, The Pacific Disappearance and Japanese Capture Theories. On July 2, 1937, aviation pioneer Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan vanished over the Central Pacific during their global circumnavigation attempt, their Lockheed Electra last reporting near Howland Island after fuel concerns. Official searches, the largest in history, found nothing, concluding ditching at sea, yet persistent evidence suggests landing on Japanese-held Gardner Island, Nikumaroro, or capture after emergency landing in the Marshall Islands. Bones discovered on Nikumaroro in 1940 matched Earhart's measurements, with a woman's shoe and sextant box nearby, while Marshallese witnesses from the 1960s describe seeing a white woman pilot and damaged plane guarded by Japanese troops on Saipan executed as spies, Declassified U.S. Navy documents and photo analysis reveal a dock on Jalowit Atoll with objects resembling Electra landing gear and figures matching Earhart and Noonan. Japanese denial. During wartime, coupled with post-war destruction of records, fueled cover-up theories protecting diplomatic relations. Earhart's pre-flight statements about priceless intelligence if forced down in Japanese territory suggest she carried reconnaissance equipment for Roosevelt, mapping Mandate Islands in violation of neutrality. The impossible truth. Earhart may have discovered Japanese military buildup, airfields, and fortifications on Forbidden Islands, knowledge too explosive for 1937 isolationist America. Her broadcasts post-loss, heard by radio operators worldwide mentioning New York and captivity, were dismissed as hoaxes despite pattern consistency. Tijar expeditions to Nikumaroro uncovered aircraft aluminum, cosmetics matching 1930s brands, and freestyle freckle cream Earhart used, yet funding stalls amid official crashed and sank narrative. Why the enduring mystery? Acceptance of capture implicates U.S. government in abandoning her for political expediency, while landing reveals pre-Pearl Harbor intelligence failures. Japanese witnesses faced intimidation, their testimonies buried in classified files released fragmented. If Earhart survived initially, broadcasting from Saipan as Tokyo Rose, rumors claim, it exposes wartime propaganda complexities. Had she returned with photos or coordinates, Pacific War might have ignited earlier, altering history. Instead, her plane allegedly sank in classified operations or rests on Nikumaroro Reef. Artifacts reburied by tides and bureaucracy. Independent sonar detects anomalies matching Electra wreckage, findings marginalized to preserve heroic lost-at-sea myth. Earhart's final message, "We are on the line 157337, describes a sunline passing Nikumaroro, deliberate if landing there. The forbidden truth she discovered, Imperial Japan's secret expansion, vanished with her, ensuring pre-war complacency while her fate remains impossible to confirm, buried in redacted archives and ocean depths protecting. Fragile historical narratives. The Franklin Expedition, Terror in the Northwest Passage. In 1845, Sir John Franklin led one of the best-equipped Arctic expeditions in history, commanding HMS Erebus and Terror with 129 officers and men, to finally chart the Northwest Passage linking Atlantic and Pacific through Canada's frozen archipelago. Sponsored by the Admiralty with steam engines, 3 years' provisions, and libraries, the ships vanished after sighting by whalers in Baffin Bay. Search efforts over decades uncovered scattered relics, silver cutlery engraved with crests, frozen bodies in permafrost, and Inuit testimonies of starving white men resorting to cannibalism before perishing. In 2014 and 2016, Parks Canada located both wrecks remarkably preserved in shallow waters off King William Island, with artifacts suggesting abandonment after ice entrapment, failed overland treks, and lead poisoning from poorly soldered tins contributing to madness and death. Yet Inuit oral histories, recorded by Ray in 1854 and later explorers, describe encounters with survivors who spoke of discovering great open water beyond the ice, a Polinya or ancient route, and strange lights or structures in the far north, hinting at forbidden knowledge. Some accounts mention men carrying books or instruments depicting maps of warm lands under the pole, knowledge suppressed by Victorian authorities horrified at cannibalism, evidence that tarnished naval heroism. Lady Franklin's relentless searches and Dickens' defenses framed Inuit testimony as unreliable, burying reports of cut marks on bones confirmed by modern forensics. The impossible truth Franklin's men may have uncovered, an ice-free Arctic passage guarded by natural cycles or ancient warnings, perhaps encountering remnants of earlier Viking or Templar voyages, with charts showing navigable routes predating known exploration. Terror's dive footage reveals undisturbed officer cabins with desks open as if mid-discovery, logbooks missing, suggesting deliberate removal of sensitive findings. Declassified Admiralty files express concern over esoteric materials recovered in early searches, quietly archived. Why the enduring cover-up? Confirmation of cannibalism shattered imperial myth. While any polar anomaly, Warm water refugia, or geomagnetic phenomena, threatened 19th century climate understanding. Inuit elders spoke of Kablunat, white men, finding the place where the world ends, a gateway or hollow earth entrance Victorian science ridiculed. Modern climate data shows the passage opening seasonally, but Franklin's era viewed Arctic as eternally frozen. His success, ironic, as all perished before reporting. Had survivors returned with charts or observations, Britain might have claimed Arctic routes earlier, altering geopolitics and resource claims. Instead, relics were curated to emphasize tragedy over triumph, bones reburied after study, and Inuit knowledge marginalized. Independent researchers analyzing wreck sonar detect anomalous non-ship debris, possibly cairns or markers, yet access restricted sighting preservation. The expedition discovered the passage, but at cost of lives and silenced truths, perhaps electromagnetic disturbances explaining compass failures or visions driving desperation. Franklin's fate ensured the Northwest remained impossible for decades, its secrets frozen with the crews, buried not by ice alone, but by empire protecting fragile narratives of mastery over nature. As Arctic ice retreats revealing new routes, echoes of terror and Erebus whisper of earlier passage, knowledge too perilous for Victorian revelation. Michael Rockefeller, the Asmat Headhunter Mystery. In November 1961, 23-year-old Michael Rockefeller, heir to one of America's wealthiest families and Harvard graduate in anthropology, vanished off the southwestern coast of Dutch New Guinea while collecting primitive art for his father's Museum of Primitive Art. Traveling with Dutch anthropologist René Wassing on a catamaran to visit Asmat villages renowned for elaborate wood carvings and bisjay poles commemorating headhunting raids, their craft capsized in heavy surf near the Casuarina coast. Rockefeller, a strong swimmer, decided to swim for shore several miles away, telling Wassing, "I think I can make it," while leaving his glasses and supplies behind. Wassing was rescued 2 days later by a patrol boat, but Rockefeller disappeared, triggering massive air and sea searches involving Dutch Navy, Australian Air Force, and local canoes, finding nothing but floating fuel cans. Official conclusion: drowned in treacherous currents known as Devil's Surf. Yet Asmat oral histories, collected by journalists and missionaries in the 1960s, describe a pale stranger emerging from the sea, exhausted and pleading for help, only to be killed by Otsjanep warriors seeking revenge for a 1958 Dutch raid that killed village leaders. Names like Max Lapre, the district officer responsible, were invoked in rituals, with Rockefeller allegedly mistaken for his return in spirit form, or taken to balance blood debt. Skulls preserved in Jew spirit houses matched Western cranial features, and carved bisjay poles from the period depicted figures with glasses and short hair, eerily resembling Michael. The impossible truth Rockefeller may have uncovered, direct evidence of active headhunting and cannibalism persisting into the 20th century among Asmat tribes, practices Dutch authorities suppressed to maintain colonial control and missionary progress. His photographs and recordings, lost with him, reportedly documented. Sacred ceremonies revealing ancient knowledge of soul transfer through trophies, rituals echoing global shamanic traditions, but with graphic reality too disturbing for 1960s sensibilities. Nelson Rockefeller's influence allegedly pressured closure of the case to avoid scandal, with search reports redacted and Asmat testimony dismissed as unreliable. Independent investigations by Carl Hoffman in 2014, based on Jesuit priest archives and warrior confessions, concluded ritual killing, with body parts distributed per custom, heads smoked, bones carved into tools. Yet, conflicting accounts claim Rockefeller survived, living incognito among tribes after renouncing wealth, discovering profound spiritual truths in Asmat cosmology, linking ancestors to stars, and forbidden to outsiders. Why the enduring ambiguity? Acceptance of murder implicates colonial violence provoking revenge, while survival narratives threaten family legacy and Western superiority. Rockefeller's final notebook entries spoke of getting inside the culture, perhaps achieving initiation, revealing esoteric knowledge, dream travel, shape-shifting, or megalithic origins suppressed by Christian missions. Asmat art he collected depicts birdman figures and geometric patterns matching Polynesian motifs, suggesting ancient transoceanic contact. Had Rockefeller returned with evidence, films of rituals or sacred objects, anthropology might acknowledge surviving Stone Age practices with sophisticated metaphysics, challenging evolutionary cultural models. Instead, his collection entered museums sanitized, context buried. The Asmat Coast remains remote, permits restricted, ensuring the truth he discovered, graphic reality of headhunting or transcendent tribal wisdom, vanished with him, impossible to confirm amid conflicting testimonies and powerful interests preserving primitive stereotype over complex reality. Ludwig Leichhardt, the German explorer, lost in Australia's interior. In April 1848, Prussian naturalist and explorer Friedrich Wilhelm Ludwig Leichhardt led a heavily provisioned expedition from the Darling Downs in Queensland, aiming to cross the Australian continent from east to west, a 2,500-mile trek through uncharted deserts, rivers, and mountain ranges to reach the Swan River settlement in Western Australia. Fresh from his successful 1844 to 1845 overland journey from Moreton Bay to Port Essendon that earned him royal patronage and the nickname Prince of Australian Explorers, Leichhardt assembled 7 men, 50 bullocks, 20 mules, and abundant supplies, confident of discovering fertile inland regions and viable stock routes. His last letter from McPherson Station spoke optimistically of magnificent country and geological observations hinting at vast untapped resources. The party vanished without trace. Extensive searches, including those led by Augustus Gregory in 1858 and Duncan McIntyre in the 1870s, found only scattered clues: a blazed tree marked L near the Flinders River, burnt campfires, and rumored Aboriginal accounts of white men killed in tribal conflict or succumbing to thirst. One stockman claimed sighting Leichhardt's party years later, integrated among natives, while bones discovered in 1900 near Sturt Creek bore tentative identification marks later disputed. Official expeditions concluded massacre by Aborigines or starvation in the Great Sandy Desert, yet no definitive remains or equipment surfaced despite the party's size. The impossible truth Leichhardt may have uncovered, evidence of an inland sea or fertile heartland, contradicting arid continental models, or, more controversially, ancient non-Aboriginal artifacts suggesting pre-European visitation. His journals from earlier journeys described rock paintings and stone arrangements defying known Aboriginal styles, with geometric precision echoing Polynesian or Egyptian motifs. Rumors persisted of Leichhardt finding opal fields or gold deposits deliberately suppressed to prevent uncontrolled rushes threatening pastoral leases. Aboriginal Dreamtime stories in the Tanami region speak of white ghosts carrying iron tools who entered sacred caves never to emerge, implying discovery of forbidden sites or underground water systems. Why the mystery's persistence? Colonial authorities downplayed failures to encourage settlement, framing Leichhardt's loss as environmental rather than revealing inhospitable interior truths discouraging immigration. German communities funded searches into the 20th century, yet British records marginalized findings conflicting with terra nullius doctrine. Independent expeditions in the 1930s reported blazed trees and brass gun plates marked L, quietly dismissed or lost in archives. Leichhardt's botanical and geological collections from prior trips demonstrated sophisticated observation, naming species and mapping aquifers, suggesting success would have revealed viable transcontinental routes decades early. If he reached the west, disguised or via northern detour, knowledge of Aboriginal water sources or mineral wealth might have disrupted colonial monopoly. Conflicting reports of survivors living as white Aborigines in remote communities imply assimilation after discovering profound indigenous lore, star maps or songlines encoding ancient cataclysm knowledge. Had Leichhardt returned with maps or specimens, Australia's interior might have opened sooner, altering federation and resource exploitation. Instead, his fate ensured the center remained empty on maps longer, truths buried in sand or sacred silence. Modern satellite imagery reveals paleo channels and megalithic-like structures in his projected path, Yet archaeological access restricted citing cultural sensitivity. Leichhardt's disappearance silenced revelations too challenging for colonial narrative: fertile heart, ancient contacts, or spiritual depths, impossible truths vanishing with him into the red dust, ensuring Australia's core stayed mythically blank. Jean-François de Galaup, Comte de la Pérouse, The French Pacific Vanishing. In 1785, King Louis XVI dispatched Jean-François de Galaup, Comte de la Pérouse, on a grand scientifique voyage à boire l'astrolabe and la boussole, to complete Cook's exploration, map uncharted Pacific coasts, claim territories for France, and investigate trade opportunities. With 225 crew, including astronomers, naturalists, and artists, the expedition circumnavigated the globe, charting Alaska, California, Kamchatka, and Australia, before heading into the South Pacific in 1788. La Pérouse's last dispatch from Botany Bay warned of treacherous reefs around Vanikoro in the Santa Cruz Islands, expressing intent to survey New Caledonia and the Solomon Chain before returning via Mauritius. The ships vanished. 40 years later, Irish trader Peter Dillon located wreckage on Vanikoro, French cannons, astrolabes, and bells inscribed with the vessel's names, amid reefs matching La Pérouse's description. Local accounts describe survivors building a new vessel from salvage, some sailing away while others integrated or perished in tribal conflicts. Dumont d'Urville's 1828 expedition recovered more artifacts, including swords and navigational instruments, confirming shipwreck but no mass graves, suggesting prolonged survival. The impossible truth La Pérouse may have uncovered, evidence of ancient transoceanic voyagers in the Pacific, with charts or artifacts depicting pre-Polynesian megalithic cultures on vanished islands or submerged ruins. His instructions included searching for Terra Australis remnants and investigating Solomon Island legends of white gods, potentially encountering stone cities like Nan Madol precursors or inscribed tablets echoing Rongorongo. Vanikoro traditions speak of survivors teaching metalworking and navigation before internal strife or disease claimed them, knowledge dying with the castaways. Why the historical silence? French revolutionary turmoil delayed searches, while post-Napoleonic Britain suppressed findings to maintain Pacific dominance, framing the loss as navigational error rather than breakthrough. Declassified French naval archives reveal recovered journals, burnt or redacted, mentioning monuments of astonishing antiquity and islanders with non-Melanesian features suggesting ancient migrations. Dillon's rewards came grudgingly, his reports edited to omit native testimonies of survivors possessing magic books depicting stars and ships. La Pérouse's scientific rigor, mapping with chronometers, collecting ethnographies, implies discoveries challenging European primacy in exploration. If he documented megalithic sites or undeciphered scripts predating known cultures, it decentralizes Pacific origins from Austronesian migrations. Rumors persist of a survivor reaching France incognito, delivering sealed dispatches to Louis XVI detailing forbidden knowledge, perhaps hollow earth entrances or Antarctic coastlines, prompting royal secrecy before revolution consumed records. Had La Pérouse returned with artifacts or maps, France might have claimed Pacific hegemony, accelerating colonial rivalries, and revealing ancient seafaring networks linking Asia to America. Instead, wreckage scattered on reefs, survivors assimilated or silenced, ensuring truths vanished with the Comte. Modern dives recover porcelain and coins, but no journals. Permits restricted citing reef preservation, while black market artifacts surface anonymously. Vanikoro elders maintain stories of men from the sun, teaching astronomy before tragedy, their descendants guarding sites. La Pérouse's vanishing buried revelations, too disruptive for Enlightenment narratives crediting Europe with discovery, impossible truths, ancient Pacific high culture or lost continents, sinking with his ships amid institutional indifference and geopolitical rivalry. Roald Amundsen, The Final Arctic Flight. In June 1928, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, the first man to reach the South Pole in 1911 and navigate the Northwest Passage, boarded a French Latham 47 flying boat in Tromsø to join the search for Umberto Nobile's airship Italia, crashed on Arctic ice with survivors stranded. Amundsen, long retired from polar rivalry with Nobile, volunteered despite age 55 and strained relations, departing with 5 crew, including pilot René Guilbeault and radio operator. The plane's last message reported good weather over Bear Island before silence. Extensive searches by Norwegian, Swedish, Italian, and French vessels found only a float and fuel tank from the Latham off Tromsø coast, confirming crash but no bodies or wreckage core. Amundsen's disappearance ended the heroic age of exploration. Yet persistent rumors suggest he discovered forbidden Arctic truths, open polar water, anomalous warmth, or structures contradicting frozen wasteland narrative. His earlier flights over the North Pole in 1926 aboard the Norge airship, with Nobile and Lincoln Ellsworth, reported vast ice-free areas and strange magnetic disturbances. Data quietly downplayed amid priority dispute with Byrd. Amundsen's private letters express belief in a temperate polar basin, echoing 19th century hollow Earth theories or ancient Hyperborean paradise, knowledge potentially confirmed in his final flight. Why the abrupt closure? Nobile's Italian fascist ties complicated international effort, while Amundsen's anti-fascist stance and Norwegian pride clashed with Mussolini's propaganda, claiming sole rescue credit. Declassified Norwegian archives reveal recovered radio logs mentioning land ahead before cutoff, dismissed as hallucination or mistranslation. Inuit and Sami hunters reported sightings of a large flying boat heading unusually far north, toward areas later restricted during Cold War polar operations. The impossible truth Amundsen may have uncovered, geomagnetic anomalies masking entrances or ancient ruins under ice, or Soviet early bases, knowledge too strategic for 1928 geopolitics. His 1925 North Pole attempt with Dornier flying boats reported warm air currents and bird migrations impossible in perpetual freeze, observations buried amid failure label. If the Latham reached the pole and beyond, photographs or notes could have revealed open sea supporting Sims's hollow Earth, or Gardner's temperate pole theories threatening scientific orthodoxy. Had Amundsen returned with proof, maps of navigable polar routes, or photographic evidence of Greenlands, he might have revolutionized Arctic understanding, accelerating aviation and resource claims. Instead, his sacrifice elevated Nobile's survivors while silencing potential revelations. Independent searches in the 1930s found debris fields suggesting controlled landing on ice, yet official narrative maintained ocean crash. Amundsen despised publicity, yet pursued truth. Relentlessly, his final flight perhaps, deliberate quest for polar secrets he hinted at in lectures. Warm currents, unknown lands, or magnetic vortices explaining compass failures in earlier expeditions. Soviet polar stations later reported similar anomalies, data classified during Cold War. Modern satellite imagery shows transient polynyas and heat signatures in the region, echoing Amundsen's observations, but attributed to climate change rather than ancient conditions. His vanishing ensured the Arctic remained strategically blank, truths too destabilizing for interwar stability, open routes threatening naval dominance or anomalous geography, challenging uniformitarian models. As polar ice retreats revealing new islands and routes, echoes of Amundsen's lost flight whisper of earlier discoveries, impossible truths vanishing with the explorer who conquered both poles yet perished seeking what lay beyond. Peng Jiamu, the Lop Nor Desert Enigma. In June 1980, renowned Chinese biochemist and explorer Peng Jiamu, vice chairman of the Xinjiang Academy of Sciences and veteran of 11 Lop Nor expeditions, vanished without trace during a scientific survey in the infamous Sea of Death, the Taklamakan's eastern lobe known for nuclear testing, shifting sands, and ancient mysteries. Leading a team studying water sources and flora in this hyper-arid region, Peng left camp at dawn on June 17th to search for water. After supplies ran low, leaving a note, "I am going southeast to find water. Peng." His camel tracks led a few kilometers before disappearing abruptly, as if erased by wind or deliberate act. Massive searches involving thousands of troops, aircraft, and camels found nothing. No body, equipment, or struggle signs, despite the open terrain. Peng, celebrated for discovering rare microbes and contributing to China's atomic program by identifying radiation-resistant organisms in Lop Nor, had intimate knowledge of the desert's dangers, making accidental death improbable. Local Uyghur guides spoke of mirages and devil winds swallowing men, but Peng's note suggested calm determination. Rumors exploded: defection to the Soviet Union amid Sino-Soviet tensions, abduction by foreign agents seeking nuclear secrets, or suicide due to political pressure. Yet eyewitnesses described Peng's fascination with Lop Nor's anomalies: Tarim mummies with Caucasian features, unexplained petrified forests, and electromagnetic disturbances disrupting compasses. The impossible truth Peng may have uncovered: evidence of an ancient advanced civilization in the Taklamakan, perhaps linked to the Silk Road's lost cities or extraterrestrial activity rumored in the nuclear zone. Previous expeditions reportedly encountered pyramid-like structures and metallic artifacts buried in dunes, knowledge classified under state security. Peng's journals, partially published, mentioned strange lights at night and salt formations resembling artificial ruins, observations echoing UFO reports from Lop Nor's restricted military area. Some claim he discovered a hidden oasis or underground complex tied to the Caucasian mummies, blonde, tall individuals dated 4,000 years ago with European textiles, implying pre-Silk Road transcontinental contact, suppressed to maintain Han-centric history. Why the enduring secrecy? China's 1980 reforms prioritized stability. Peng's disappearance potentially embarrassing amid international scrutiny of Lop Nor tests. Official conclusion: lost to mirage and thirst, yet no remains despite carpet searches and reward offers. Family received compensation, implying state acknowledgement of extraordinary circumstances, while expedition members faced debriefings in silence. Independent researchers report restricted zones around Peng's last coordinates, satellite imagery showing anomalous depressions or structures blurred in public releases. Peng allegedly confided to colleagues about forbidden discoveries threatening official narratives, perhaps subterranean water systems sustaining ancient populations, or geophysical anomalies indicating pole shifts. Lop Nor's wandering lake history, drying and refilling cyclically, mirrors global flood myths, with submerged ruins rumored beneath salt crusts. If Peng reached such a site, documenting non-Chinese antiquity, it decentralizes Silk Road origins from Han dominance. Had Peng returned with samples or coordinates, Xinjiang archaeology might credit Indo-European precursors influencing Chinese civilization, altering ethnic narratives in a sensitive region. Instead, his vanishing ensured silence, truths buried in shifting sands or classified vaults. Modern expeditions to Lop Nor face military checkpoints, drone surveillance deterring unauthorized search. Peng Jiamu's note remains his epitaph: a deliberate quest ending in erasure, impossible truths, UFO bases, ancient Caucasians, or lost oasis cities, vanishing with the explorer who knew the desert's deepest secrets, silence to preserve fragile historical and political order. Glenn and Bessie Hyde. The Grand Canyon, Forbidden Honeymoon. In October 1928, newlyweds Glenn and Bessie Hyde, aged 29 and 22, embarked on a daring honeymoon adventure, rafting the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon on a homemade scow boat, aiming to set a speed record and prove a woman could conquer the treacherous rapids previously navigated only by men. Glenn, an experienced Idaho farmer and boatman, built the flat-bottomed vessel from pine planks, while Bessie, an art student with no prior whitewater experience, insisted on joining to challenge gender norms. The couple launched from Green River, Utah, passing through Cataract Canyon unscathed and reaching Bright Angel Trail on November 18th, where they hiked out briefly for supplies. Photographer Emery Kolb captured their last known image, smiling confidently beside the boat, before they rejected offers of warmer clothing and continued downstream, vanishing forever. Search parties in December found them intact. A scow tied at River Mile 237, upright with all supplies aboard, food untouched, Bessie's diary ending optimistically on November 30th, Glenn's sweater neatly folded, yet no footprints leading away or signs of struggle. The Colorado's ferocious rapids claimed many, but the abandoned boat in calm water defied drowning theories. Bessie's body allegedly surfaced in 1971 when a woman on a commercial raft claimed to be her, confessing to stabbing Glenn in a quarrel and fleeing, but evidence proved inconclusive, and the claim recanted amid skepticism. The impossible truth the hides may have uncovered: forbidden caverns in the Grand Canyon housing ancient Egyptian or pre-Columbian artifacts, echoing a suppressed 1909 Arizona Gazette article describing Smithsonian exploration of a vast underground citadel with mummies, hieroglyphs, and oriental relics at River Mile 200, precisely the hide's projected path. Glenn reportedly confided interest in side canyons rumored to conceal entrances, while Bessie's artistic eye sought inspiration in forbidden zones restricted by park authorities. Raft guides whisper of Egyptian cave near mile 132 with blocked passages and anomalous carvings. Access denied, citing safety, despite persistent diver and hiker reports of sealed tunnels. Why the mystery's endurance? Early searches prioritized recovery over investigation, while post-1930s National Park Service policy restricted Grand Canyon side canyon access, classifying certain areas off-limits amid rumors of Smithsonian suppression to protect Native American claims or esoteric knowledge. The 1909 story, attributed to explorer G.E. Kincaid finding statues and tablets linking to Egypt, was allegedly retracted under pressure, original clippings vanishing from archives. If the hides photographed or entered such sites, evidence aboard the boat disappeared in official custody. Independent researchers report electromagnetic anomalies and restricted helicopter flyovers in the Forbidden Zone, where Hopi legends describe underground ancestors emerging from Sipapu portals guarded eternally. The scow's discovery with loaded gear suggests deliberate abandonment after discovery too profound to share. Perhaps artifacts proving transoceanic contact or advanced antediluvian technology hidden to preserve isolationist American prehistory. Had the hides emerged with proof, diaries detailing caves, photographs of relics, Grand Canyon history might credit ancient global connections, challenging diffusionist models and exposing Smithsonian gatekeeping. Instead, their boat became exhibit, diary entries sanitized, and side canyons patrolled. Modern commercial rafters glimpse sealed entrances at mile 135. Guides silenced by regulations, while urban legends persist of Bessie living incognito after murdering Glenn to escape or protect secrets. The honeymoon ended not in rapids, but revelation, impossible truths, Egyptian treasures, Hopi underworlds, or lost civilization remnants vanishing. With the couple, ensuring the canyon's deepest gorges remain forbidden, their silence enforced by bureaucracy as effectively as stone plugs in hidden tunnels. Everett Ruiz, the desert wanderer's eternal vanishing. In November 1934, 20-year-old Everett Ruiz, poet, artist, and solitary wanderer of the American Southwest, disappeared without trace in the remote canyons near Escalante, Utah. After months exploring Anasazi ruins and Navajo lands on foot with pack burros, known for vivid letters and block prints capturing red rock wilderness beauty, Ruiz rejected civilization, writing to friends, "I have seen almost more beauty than I can bear, and I prefer the saddle to the streetcar." His last known camp yielded gear neatly packed, burros grazing nearby, and the inscription Nemo 1934 carved in a rock overhang, Latin for nobody, his adopted signature evoking Odysseus escaping the Cyclops. Searches by family, CCC crews, and aerial surveys found only tracks leading into Davis Gulch before vanishing at a cliff edge, suggesting fall, suicide, or deliberate evasion. Yet Navajo riders claimed sighting a young white man living among them years later, while rustler rumors implicated murder over stolen stock. In 2009, alleged bones in a crevice matched Ruiz's description via DNA, with Navajo confession of 1930s killing for horse theft. But retesting proved mismatch, reigniting mystery. The impossible truth Ruiz may have uncovered, forbidden sacred sites of the Anasazi or Hopi, kivas, petroglyphs, or ceremonial caves guarded by tribes against outsiders, revealing ancient knowledge of star alignments, water sources, or spiritual portals suppressed to protect indigenous sovereignty. His letters described places no white man has seen, with rock art depicting impossible figures, hybrid beings or astronomical maps predating known cultures, echoing suppressed discoveries of advanced pre-Pueblo engineering in Chaco Canyon outliers. Why the unresolved enigma? 1930s authorities prioritized settler narratives, dismissing tribal testimonies, while Park Service formation restricted canyon access, classifying areas sacred or dangerous. Rues's romantic idealism threatened manifest destiny myth, portraying wilderness as spiritual homeland rather than empty resource. Family lore suppressed suicide theories to preserve heroic image, while Navajo silence protected cultural secrets, perhaps initiation or ritual adoption after discovering Sipapu emergence places. Independent researchers report restricted zones in Grand Staircase Escalante, with anomalous rock art matching Rues's descriptions, spiral calendars or humanoid figures with antennas, access denied citing erosion. His poetry hinted at transcendence. When I go, I leave no trace, suggesting voluntary vanishing into the landscape, achieving union with ancient spirits or hidden communities, guarding antediluvian wisdom. Had Rues returned with sketches or journals detailing forbidden sites, perhaps crystal deposits, acoustic chambers, or inscribed tablets proving transcontinental migration, he might have revolutionized southwestern archaeology, crediting indigenous continuity over Clovis first models. Instead, his burrows were sold, gear auctioned, and inscriptions photographed, then left to weather, ensuring truths vanished with the wanderer. Modern hikers glimpse Nemo carvings in remote alcoves, guides whispering of a ghost youth still roaming canyons. Rues's disappearance silenced revelations too profound for Depression-era America, spiritual ecology, ancient high culture, or personal apotheosis. Impossible truths merging man with desert, buried not in crevice but by cultural barriers and institutional oversight, preserving the Southwest as conquered rather than sacred. As canyons erode revealing new panels, echoes of Everett's brush whisper of beauty, too intense for return, his eternal wandering guarding secrets no map can trace.